The Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Chapter 153, Heading for a New Journey. And King confesses that it never crossed his mind, that the only way to wake Percival up ended up not involving the elixir or any kind of magic, but exposing his friends to mortal danger. Percival of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, the captain, the King of Lion told me that you were one of the knights of the prophecy that would save all of Britannia. You will have a great mission waiting for you in the future. But before that, I want you to remember one thing. While you were asleep, there was someone on the other side who spoke to you every day, who worked tirelessly to make you wake up. But as soon as he realized the king's intentions, Nasiens immediately asked the fairy king not to mention it, because it wasn't important. Percival replied that he already knew. All the trouble he's gone through because of you, and the things he's told his father and Tyra. Percival thanks you for everything Nasiens has done. And that now he also knows why he never agreed to take a bath with him. Although Percival says that he should have known that he wouldn't have minded, and that from now on, they should shower together next time. Much to the dismay of Nasiens, who now has no excuse. But the king still had one last thing to do, so he asked Nasiens to come closer to him, because he wanted to give him something. The fairy king then points his finger at his son, and suddenly an intense glow appears. And that was King's gift to Nasiens, a fragment of his spirit spear. And although it was only a fragment, it had a lot of power. And in response to your wishes, the sacred tree will change shape to lend you its power. However, Nasiens asks if King is sure of this, as it was very valuable. And Tyra is the one to say it, because she doesn't miss an opportunity to pin Sixtus, saying that Nasiens is very lucky indeed. The king then goes on to say, and one day, when you return to the fairy kingdom, and the time comes for you to succeed me as the fourth king of the fairies, I will give you the complete spear. However, Nasiens ends up saying that he no longer intends to return, as his homeland is and always will be Britannia. What's more, he has no intention of succeeding to the throne, and that his goal is to become a herbalist who surpasses his adoptive father Ordo. And on hearing this, King is overcome with grief. Diane, for her part, admits that it was very cold, and that she knows very well who he got it from. While Tyra rebukes Nasiens, saying that there are other ways of saying something like that. Nasiens immediately realizes that he has misspoken, so he apologizes and corrects himself by saying that he can't actually live there, but that he will visit them whenever he can. And Tyra and all his other brothers and sisters hope that this is a promise, for they will all be waiting for him. And finally, King now turns to Percival. The king of the fairies wanted to know if there was anything he wanted to ask him, because whatever it was, he was ready to answer. And Percival did have a question. Fairy king, how do you feel about the fact that they stole the ancestral elixir? And that was literally a slap in the face to the king. And to complete the combo, Sixtus says that none of this would have happened if he had given the elixir to the Nasiens from the start. And about that, King apologizes and confesses. I just wanted to spend as much time as possible with you. What a selfish father I am. But Diane interrupts that moment, saying that the elixir doesn't matter now, and that they can collect it again in 1,000 years. Family always comes first, because if you lose it, you can't get it back. So there's nothing more important than that, especially if everyone is well. And beaming, Tyra totally agrees with her mother. As does King, who is proud of her words. There's nothing in the world that compares to those smiles. And after this beautiful speech, it was finally time to leave, but first Nasiens thanked him, saying, King of the fairies and Queen of the giants, thank you for all your help. King says it was no big deal, while Diane asks him to be careful. However, Percival asks if Nasiens still wants to say anything else. And then Nasiens fills his mouth to say, Mom, Dad, goodbye for now. And on the other side, outside the fairy kingdom, Percival changes his stance and bravely calls for the Nasiens, because they need to defeat King Arthur. That's the only way they can save Britannia. Then they both run towards the cliff and jump into the new future. Percival and Nasiens fly off together, side by side for the next journey. But first Percival tells them that they need to meet up with Donnie and Anne. although he believes that the two of them must certainly be very angry with him. However, we can see that the herbalist was having difficulty flying alongside Percival and simply began to fall. However, before the worst could happen, Percival grabs Nasien's hand. The herbalist apologizes, as he confesses that he still hasn't got the hang of flying. Percival asks him to hold his hand until he gets used to it. Very happily, Nasiens can't help himself, and asks permission to say something that he recognizes wouldn't be appropriate for that moment. Percival doesn't mind, though, and wants to hear what he has to say. Nasiens then says, "I'm very excited to be adventuring with you again, Percival, I couldn't be happier." And Percival smiled back, saying that he felt the same way. Soon Percival asked an unusual question, wanting to know when Nasiens would turn into a woman or a man. Nasiens asks which he prefers, but Percival replies that it doesn't matter, either one would be beautiful to see, but Nasiens isn't satisfied with the answer, and asks Percival to be clearer. Percival's team meeting is coming up. What the beginning of this new journey holds for Percival and Nasiens. Continued in the next chapter, entitled, Separation.